John Milton was a great poet because of his writing of great epic Paradise Lost and other lyrics, odes, masques, and elegies. Born on 9th December 1608, he was the great English poet, intellectual, and political activist. I belonged to Puritan sect in Catholic religion. He was a great pamphleteer. He was the son of John Milton, the music composer, and Sarah Jaffrey. He was also squire. He attended St. Paul's School, studied Latin and Greek languages. At 15, he wrote two datable compositions. He studied very hard and late at night for his fairness. He was called a Lady of Christ College, which he joined in 1625. There was a break in the period due to the break of the plague in England. He completed his graduation in 1629 and he prepared himself to become an Anglican priest and obtained his MA in 1632. In 1632, he wrote two poems, La Allegro and Il Penseroso. During his college period, he wrote elegies in Latin. He was sent back home due to after 1932. He stayed at home, that is at Horton, as his father retired, and he wrote two poems, Arcadis and Comus, in 1637. In 1638, he wrote Lycidas and his elegy over the death of his friend Edward King. In this year, his Horton period ended, and in 1642 he married for the first time Mary Powell. But in 1644 and 1645, he was actually involved in active politics in England, siding with the Royalists. The bloody revolution took place in 1649, in which King Charles I was beheaded. Oliver Cromwell became the head of the state. During this period, he wrote domestic political pamphlets. He became totally blind in 1652, and in 1663, he married Elizabeth Minsberg. In the second half of this period, he wrote the second half of the Paradise Lost. He also wrote some sonnets during this period. And in 1660, the Charles II became the King of England, and the theatres were reopened. In 1667, he published Paradise Lost, following Paradise Regained in 1671. His last work was Samson Agonistus, a Greek tragedy in English. He died on 8th November 1674, Bunhill, England. Paradise Lost is one of the great epics of world literature. It was written by the great Puritan poet John Milton between the years 1652 and 1667. He published in 1667. The idea of writing the epic was with him for a long time. He wrote some poems dealing with the Christian themes earlier, a poem like On the Morning of Christ's Nativity. For Paradise Lost, he borrowed the theme and the story of the Bible, the story of Adam and Eve, Old Testament. It is a story of strife between God and Lucifer, the angel whom God punished and sent him to hell, where he turns into Satan. In turn, Satan decides to take revenge against God, but he cannot take revenge directly. So he wants to take revenge against the divine race God created in paradise. So he becomes a cormorant and flies out of hell and perches on the tallest tree in Eden and observes. He finds Adam and Eve, going naked in the state of innocence. He saw Adam and Eve sitting there. He wants to tempt Eve first under this, he's sitting under the tree of forbidden knowledge. So he transforms himself into the form of serpent and goes to her and whispers into ear to pluck the fruit and eat the fruit of knowledge. And she asks Adam to help her. The moment she eats half, she loses her divinity and she develops all human emotions like fear, anxiety, hunger, etc. She runs away and behind a bush. Later, Adam shares her sin of eating the other half of the fruit. And this breach of God's law reaches God's ears, and God sends Michael, who comes brandishing swords and sends them down to earth. They come to earth accusing of each other, weeping, and it said that they are the ancestors of the whole human race. The Paradise Lost is about the loss of innocence and the result of disobedience to God. Consequently, death entered into the mankind. Of this theme and subject, he says in his very first invocation to the Muse, to justify the ways of God to man. It's a great religious epic with a Christian theme, having 12 books, each of 1500 lines. It is praised for its grand theme, sublime theme, epic characters, epic similes, and epic narrative. And this is the great epic that followed Dante's Divina Commedia.